Hi, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Navigating Trump 2.0. This is the show that takes a look at the week that was in Washington, D.C. through the lens of the second Trump administration. I'm John Stolnis, and joining me once again this week, CBN News chief political analyst David Brody and host of CBN's podcast Quick Start, Dan Andros. Gentlemen, no shortage of things to jump into here as we finish off the week. Donald Trump spent the week in Asia. He finished off in Japan, where he had a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, and apparently they are getting closer to a trade deal. The president announcing a deal that would shave 10% off the tariffs that exist on Chinese goods right now in exchange for a promise by China to crack down on fentanyl and the chemicals and substances that are used to create fentanyl. One of the big issues that the United States has with China is it's far too easy for the producers of fentanyl to get their hands on these different substances. And so the reduction will bring the minimum tariff on Chinese imports down to 20% and the average tariff rate to around 47%. David, there are a number of other things that appear to be in the works here. Soybeans purchased from U.S. farmers, rare earth minerals from China to the U.S., TikTok, all these different things, they're still being discussed. But what's your take right now on this deal with China, what the president announced, what we're hearing from China?
The president comes home with a deal, with a deal in hand. And there's nothing obviously officially signed, though. I love the way Trump always comes out in social, like it's done, like it's all just done, signed, sealed, and delivered, like Stevie Wonder would say. And so I just think it's all about a little bit of the posturing. I always talk about Trump. He loves to use this term, and this is his term, not mine. He calls it, he dabbles in truthful hyperbole. Mm-hmm. That's what Trump does. And that's exactly what he does. And this is some of that truthful hyperbole. Like there's a deal. I don't think there's any question there's a deal. Nothing's been signed yet, though. And so we wait to see what the devil in the details are exactly. But having said that, look, it's a successful trip. There's no doubt about it. The whole trip was extremely successful. He was doing the art of the deal. And look, you don't go all the way to Asia and come home empty-handed. I mean, Scott Bessent was doing the dirty work ahead of time. And so that's obviously part of it. And here's the other dirty little secret that's not a secret. Xi Jinping needs to be in the U.S. market more than we need to be in the Chinese market. I'm not saying we don't need to play in their sandbox. We do. But the ultimate leverage point for Trump is that Xi Jinping knows that U.S. market is crucial to his economic survival and really the country's economic survival. So I think with that, having said that, since Trump knows that, he was able to leverage and do what he needed to do. And, Trump is isn't it interesting, guys, how Trump is always so what's the word I'm looking for? Just effusive with praise to so many of these world leaders, even though he kind of trashes them left and right on X and Truth Social and all that type of stuff. But, in person, he's just like, oh, great guy. Love this guy. I've gotten along with him since the dark ages. So anyhow, job, mission accomplished.
Yeah, and Dan, the president also announced right before his meeting with Xi that the U.S. would restart nuclear testing. Now, that raised a lot of eyebrows in the international community and here in the U.S., although it was unclear if the president was referring to testing the missiles, doing more testing on the missiles that can deliver nuclear payloads, or whether he was talking about actual tests on nuclear warheads themselves. The last U.S. test on nuclear warheads took place in 1992, and North Korea is the only country in the world that has done testing on nuclear warheads since the 1990s. What did you make of the president's announcement on this?
Well, I mean, details hasn't been the president's strongest suit. It is for all the things he does well. I mean, this being detailed on comments like this isn't always his best. So until he clarifies it or, adds some more context to it, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what he meant. But if I had to narrow it down, I would guess this is sort of part of Trump just trying to communicate at least some show of strength here as he's in the midst of all these talks and discussions, towards not only here China, but also towards Russia, because if we know anything about Trump's foreign policy and the successes that he's had in the last few years and over both terms, really, it's because people kind of think his threats and his the leverage that he puts out there are real. Like this is not the soft foreign policy and the soft approach that we've seen from previous leaders. And I would just add one last thing, that a lot of the big claims before Trump came into office was, oh, we're going to be a laughing stock around the world. We're going to be jokes around the world. No one's going to respect Trump. I think these leaders do respect Trump. I actually think there's part of them that wish they could communicate to people the way he does, just so casually and like openly to people. I mean, he says what he's thinking, and a lot of them can't do that. They're still in that old mode of doing things, but also the fact that he's willing to talk to them. He's out there all the time. They're coming into America all the time. I think they do respect him.
Oh, I think that's such a great point, Dan. And, here's his ultimate leverage point, Trump's ultimate leverage point, which is he's just a bit crazy enough to do it. Like
I was going to say, it feels to me like, yes, there's maybe some respect, but it's also, he's kind of like a feral leader, like all these other leaders, they're polished and they're trained and all this. And he's just kind of like a cat out in the wilderness who's never been allowed indoors or something sometimes, when it comes to
it's respecting your enemy though, right? Like David, I mean, it's like, you have maybe global adversaries. You're trying to get things from them. They're trying to get things from you. It's like your opponent in a sports game. You might not love playing against them, but you can respect them at the same time.
Well, and here's the thing, too. And to be clear, for any Trump supporters listening to think that I called the president crazy, no, I called him crazy, and I should add, like a fox. I mean, he's not crazy just to be crazy. He's crazy with a purpose. He's intentionally crazy, if you will, if that's kind of a way to say it. He's like the guy who says, like, he says something, right? Something so outlandish. And world leaders will thinking to themselves, he's not going to do that. And then they pause and they go, actually, he might. And right there, he's won. It's the art of the deal, gentlemen.
Right. And I would argue is that they respect him, or that they're a little bit more wary or kind of trying to give him a wider berth because he does do things and say things that are unexpected, that are far outside the norms of what previous U.S. presidents have done or said.
It depends what you define respect as. I mean, I think it's a form of respect for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you're right, David. I mean, certainly a lot was accomplished on this trip overseas. And while the president was in Asia, the government shutdown here in the United States has continued as we speak, now on day 30. We've officially reached 1 month of the government shutdown. And right now, the focus seems to be on finding a temporary solution to the funding for the SNAP food assistance program that helps a little more than 40 million Americans buy groceries and other essentials. Republicans on Wednesday blocked a standalone legislation from hitting the floor by Democrats that would have funded SNAP, saying that the Senate Democrats have the opportunity to fund SNAP, and that's by passing the continuing resolution, the clean CR that passed in the House back in September. Democrats are blaming the Trump administration, saying there are about $5 billion in funds, contingency funds, that can go to SNAP. And there are a number of states' attorneys general that are suing the department, the Trump administration, because they say they are required by law to provide this funding for SNAP. And they're calling Trump's refusal to withhold that money heartless. So you have the Republicans are blaming the Democrats blaming Republicans. Both sides seem to have some pretty good arguments here, Dan. This is obviously an important program that Republicans and Democrats say cannot be allowed to lapse, and yet here we are. Do you see a deal getting done in time to rescue SNAP?
Don't know about the deal getting done in time. And if it does get done in time, I don't think it'll be because of SNAP. I think both Republicans and Democrats have shown a willingness to use these different programs as leverage and as a cudgel to sort of get what they want. They're perfectly willing to do that. And I think, number one, that is something that people who might be on SNAP, hey, you promised us this stuff and now you're reneging on it. It only sows more distrust in the government systems that they're relying on for this. But then I think there's a second thing at play here, is that the fact that 40 million people are even on SNAP and getting this is kind of an indicator to me that we've got bigger problems than this government shutdown. Like, what is going on with our system that 40 million people need assistance to buy food? What is happening here? And so, as people argue about, let's make sure we get all these people that depend on SNAP help, there is an immediate need. But I also think there's a need for a deeper discussion on, wait a minute, what is going on here that so many people are dependent on this. And unless my math's wrong here, guys, on my quick Google, while you brought up that $5 billion, John, that's $125 per 40 million people. I mean, these days that'll get you a couple loaves of bread and maybe a basket of apples or something. I feel like every time I go to the grocery store and I buy like 3 things, it's like $70. I'm like, what did I just buy? So anyway, those are just my thoughts there on that.
I agree with you on the 3 items purchased at grocery stores.
Yeah.
No doubt. A couple of things. And once again, I said this last week, and I'll repeat it again. I believe the week of November 3rd, which is next week, there will be some sort of air quote deal. And I'll give it 7 to 10 days. So take November 3rd and let's go to about November 13th or so. Within that time frame, cue up this 3/4-inch tape as I talk from the 1970s. And I believe that you will see some sort of deal. Now, what does that look like? I have no clue. But I will tell you this, that I believe that ultimately there's going to be some sort of loose framework. I used that term last week, and I'll use it again. I think you're going to see we're in the saving face strategy, or saving face phase, I should say, which is how do Democrats get out of this? Republicans, I don't think, have as much of a desire to save face here, maybe a little bit, but it's more Democrats. How do they get out of this thing? And I think this is the way that they can come out, and Chuck Schumer can walk to the microphones and say, victory. Of course, it's not victory, but he'll say victory. The Republicans have agreed to a loose framework. He won't even say loose. He'll say framework where we are going to now discuss finally, what on the healthcare subsidies, yada, yada, yada. And so I think that's what you're going to see. Now, remember, whatever Chuck Schumer says, don't take it to the bank, because a framework is really a loose framework, and a loose framework is no framework. So you never know if it's actually going to come to fruition. But that's the way I think Democrats can save face here. And the reason I think it's all going to come to a head next week is because it's the perfect storm, right? You got SNAP. We talked about that. That's running out. You got the air traffic controller situation. You got the off-year elections. We'll see how that goes. That could play into it. You've got the Obamacare enrollment period. So we're going to hear about premiums going up. That could play into it. And then you got WIC as well, right? The Women, Infant, and Children program as well. So you put it all together. It is a perfect storm, all coming right around November 3rd. That week, and that's how I see it going.
Yeah, and Dan, to your point on the numbers, you're right. I didn't crunch the numbers before, but it is interesting to see. I mean, they said it would only fund SNAP through November, so it would essentially be a 1-month extension on SNAP benefits. But yeah, it's interesting to kind of figure out exactly how that money would work. But I guess at the end of the day, I wonder if you're saying. Go ahead, yeah.
No, John, go ahead, please. Please finish your thought.
I was just saying, are we sensing a shift in how Americans are feeling about the shutdown and who bears responsibility? I mean, I think House Speaker Mike Johnson made a strong point at his news conference on Wednesday, where he listed the 13 times Senate Democrats have failed to move on a clean continuing resolution, which is something Democrats have always done. They've always pushed for a clean continuing resolution, and it's normally Republicans who have been willing to risk a government shutdown because they want to see funding cuts. They want to see a decrease in excess spending and trying to use the levers of the government to do that. And now you're seeing it's the Democrats on that side, and the Democrats are pointing the finger at the Trump administration, saying you've got this money and you're choosing not to spend it. I just think, like, as this goes on and flights are delayed, and people are going to food banks that have never been to food banks before, is the blame, who's winning the blame game here, and is that important at this point?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't really believe polls, so I really don't know. And I think it's going to be more anecdotal. And I think the truth is in the eye of the beholder here. I mean, I think the Democrats are going to say we're winning, Republicans say we're winning, but I don't think anybody wins, honestly, in this game. Let's just be frank about it. I think both parties lose. Now, having said that, I do want to just point out the irony of the ridiculousness of this. So even if they come to a deal, can you imagine? Let's say they come to a deal November 14th. Okay, great. Congratulations. Oh, by the way, the continuing resolution runs out a week later.
Like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So this is Congress, ladies and gentlemen. This is Congress for you. Hey, we finally did something. Oh, shoot. Now we got to pass another continuing resolution. Oh, gosh.
That's a really good point. By the time they get around to passing this thing, it'll have like a week's shelf life. You're right. That's
they're lucky.
Crazy. Yeah, that's right. Let's finish up with an election preview. As you mentioned, David, just a second ago, on Tuesday, we have off-year elections, but some races that could be bellwethers for the midterms. And of course, we're looking specifically in a few different states. We're looking in Virginia, where you have a governor's race and an attorney general's race. You also, in New York, have this big mayoral race there. California will be voting on a referendum as to whether or not they're going to redistrict ahead of the midterm elections. You've got a very close governor's race in New Jersey, which is a place that is always typically very blue, but it's a 2 or 3 point race there between the Republican and the Democrat. David, what's your take on the state of the races with the election less than a week away?
Looking at New Jersey specifically, that's going to be the nail biter of the evening. Jack Ciattarelli really has more than a puncher's chance. He can actually win that thing in New Jersey, which is remarkable considering Democrats have some like 800,000 seat advantage, or not seat, excuse me, registered voter advantage in the state. So that's pretty wild. That's the main one I'm going to be looking at. Mamdani is a slam dunk in New York. I mean, it's gotten to the point that Mamdani is so radical that even conservatives say vote for COVID Cuomo. I mean, that I'm sorry, but it's COVID Cuomo, right? I mean, where conservatives are so frustrated with Andrew Cuomo for the longest time and just railed on him, and now they're like, oh, Go with him. Really? Way to stick to your principles. Look, the way I see the thing in New York, if you're a conservative and you're just like, you have a choice of like, are you going to support Cuomo or not? I don't think you support Cuomo. That sacrifices your principles. I think what you do is, as we like to say, let it burn. Let Mamdani run loose and see what happens in New York, and then recover from the ashes afterwards, and just let's see communism, Marxism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, on display in New York, and see it as a test experiment. And AOC better be hoping Mamdani comes up roses, because if not, her U.S. Senate career could be short-circuited because she's tied to Mamdani. And if she ever wanted to be president one day, this will be a problem if Mamdani fails in New York, which chances are pretty high that he will. So there's that. And then finally in California, I mean, look, even Gavin Newsom is saying now, no need to even like campaign for it. I mean, Prop 50 is going to pass in California. So you got that. Oh, I forgot Virginia. How could I forget Virginia? Dan, maybe you can explain this to me. How in the world is Abigail Spanberger still leading by 7 to 10 points or whatever it is? I mean, depending on the polls, I don't get it. I mean, the Jay Jones texting scandal, there's just been, it's not just that, right? She's not the best candidate in the world. I thought that debate was a disaster for her. So I'm still kind of flabbergasted that she's up by that much in a state that had been trending, at least in recent years, at least within Trump years, a little bit more Republican. So I don't know, guys. What do you think?
I mean, I'm looking at these races, and I mean, Virginia, I mean, I think, John, you're in the Virginia area. I mean, both you guys are in the Virginia area. Maybe you all can explain Virginia better than me, because it seems like Virginia is a little schizophrenic. It just kind of flip-flops all the time on which side they're going to be. And so you can never really, they're just kind of, I guess, right on the needle on like which way they're going to go. So I really can't explain that one, because it's not like just one bad message or like a private text where somebody was using some colorful language out of context that are taking it. Like, these seem to be like legitimate views that this guy had. And, kind of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you can kind of, if you can't make that stick, what attack ad are you going to make attack ad make stick? And then the last thing I'll say about New York, you were saying, David, here's what you do. You let it, if I'm a conservative and I'm in New York, and those are my options, I think the only reasonable solution is to pack up and move out of New York City. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, John, I'm curious, what do you think about Virginia? Because, I mean, to me, this seems like it's a race between Abigail Spanberger and Donald Trump. I mean, I think that's what they've pretty much done here. I mean, nothing against Winston Earl Sears, but, they're running against Trump. And you've got to be 40%. The Democrats have to be, the Republicans have to at least get 40% in the Virginia, D.C. suburbs there. I want to say the suburbs, the burbs and the exurbs, and even out past even Loudoun County. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think when Glenn Youngkin won the governorship a few years ago, there was a really strong push with regard to what was happening in Virginia schools and parental rights being taken back, and that issue seems to the Republicans won that argument, and Youngkin won that argument, and that those issues have not been at the center of this election. It hasn't been at the center of this campaign. And so when you look at these two candidates, I think you're seeing an Abigail Spanberger, a candidate who a lot of Virginians and a lot of independent Virginians see as kind of a more moderate Democrat. I don't think that most Virginians believe that she would take the state in a far liberal direction. And for a state that is traditionally blue, that might be enough to, certainly seems like it is enough to swing the tide of things. And Winsome Earle-Sears as a candidate, she seems, she's a strong conservative, but I don't think she's done a great job capturing the hearts of Virginia voters, and she's not really a dynamic presence on the campaign trail. You mentioned it; it's really kind of more Spanberger versus Donald Trump in this election, and so it is strange. I think in Virginia, most people tend to want to lean on the Democratic side of things anyway. So failing something like what we saw with Youngkin a few years ago, where the school issue and the parental choice issue was so strong, without having that here in hand, I think now you're kind of seeing Virginia getting back to kind of where it normally is with this governor's race.
John, that's such a great point, because Winsome Earle-Sears has pretty much tried to kind of make that kind of a tier A issue, get the boys out of the women's bathroom and all that. But that has kind of been there, done that. And I want to see, believe me, there's crazy stuff still going on. But Youngkin capitalized on that. It was the right timing. For Winsome Earle-Sears, it does seem like that isn't exactly, she's not comporting with voters on that issue as much as Youngkin did back in the day. Yeah. Good point.
I want to ask you guys one last thing about the New York mayoral race as we finish up here. And I've seen, and I think this is kind of a growing chorus among Republicans, and they're calling Mamdani the face of the Democratic Party now. And obviously there's a political tactic here where they want to paint the Democratic Party as a Marxist, as a socialist party, and that's long been a rallying cry for Republicans against progressives and the left and the far left specifically. And if Mamdani wins in New York, it certainly will be an affirmation, at least among New York Democrats, that that's the direction the party wants to go in that particular state. Do you think that argument is going to resonate on a nationwide level, calling Mamdani, like kind of putting him front and center as like the de facto face of the Democratic Party? Is it accurate, and do you think it'll stick?
I don't think it's accurate. I don't think it's accurate at all. I think it's a one-off in New York because it's New York, number one. And number two, the leader of the Democrat Party is not Mamdani. It's going to be the Democrat nominee for president. Parties go into the wilderness, they check in with Moses, and they do their thing, and then they come out with a leader. And whether it be Gavin Newsom / whoever it is, that is going to be the leader of the Democrat Party going forward. So everybody's like, who's the leader of the Democrat Party? Who cares? Who cares? It's not going to, they don't need a leader right now, but they will have one, and that will be the nominee of the party. And it's not going to be Mamdani, and it won't be AOC. Now, will they, as in the leader of the Democrat Party, have to play the tap dance game and kind of distance themselves, or, kind of figure out, the sweet spot? Yes, that will be challenging. But I don't see Mamdani as kind of like, okay, therefore the Democrats have gone full on communists and socialists at the national level. Now, having said that, the far left of the party definitely has the oxygen, and that's what propelled Biden. And we'll see if it does the same in 2028 with the Democrat nominee.
Dan, what do you think?
I think this is an interesting question, because it depends on, I'll just say it like this. If you look at Bernie Sanders, like, he probably should have been the Democratic nominee, right? And then the party sort of said, no, we can't do that, right? And then we saw what the party did to Biden, where they, at the moment they thought he wasn't going to win, they changed the, candidate and put somebody else in there who they thought was going to win. So I guess what I'm thinking is, I think there might be more support among the Democratic population for these extreme people like AOC and like the extreme left people, AOC and the Bernie Sanders of the world. I think they really like that messaging. And I think what you see is the Democratic establishment sort of holding that at bay because they don't think it's palatable on a national level at times. So While maybe he's not the face of the Democratic Party right now, I think part of that could be because the Democratic Party doesn't, the powers that be don't want him to be the face or that type of person to be the face. But I think there's probably more support for that sort of far left view than perhaps a lot of people think.
Agreed.
Well, the three of us will be taking a look at this election on Tuesday night from 9 to 10 on the CBN News digital platform. So make sure that you come back here for that on Tuesday night, as we'll be analyzing and breaking it all down. In the meantime, for Navigating Trump 2.0, that'll do it for this week. David Brody, Dan Andros, thanks once again for joining me here on Navigating Trump 2.0.
Thanks, gentlemen.
All right, thanks, John.